Okay, I know you're laughing because I'm still in the same outfit. But today is Thursday. I have probably been running around all day long with Maya in Edinburgh, and we have been buying computer equipment because the electrical outlets are different in the UK, so she can't use her US version. So I know I've been spending lots of money, but I've been thinking about you. And so I want to talk about the lesson I want you to do today. So today we are doing lesson 2-3, and it's called Simplifying Variable Expressions. I only want you to do the odd problems. And there are some very specific things that I want you to pay attention to. But this hint I'm going to give you right now is the crucial hint that's going to help you get this right. And what I'm showing you today, it's the most commonly missed problems on the test. And so whatever you do, I want you to focus right now, and I want you to look at this red statement. It says, hint, change all subtraction signs to plus the opposite. So I've got two expressions written here, and I have a whole bunch of subtraction there. And I can't clearly see whether numbers are positive or negative when I have a subtraction sign. So if you do this one thing every single time, you're going to clearly be able to see if a number is positive or negative before I go identify it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite this expression. And anything that is plus, I'm going to keep the same. But if I see minus, I'm going to change it to plus the opposite. I think I'll use two colors for this. So 4D is just a positive number, so I'm going to leave that as 4D. But I see a minus, so I'm going to change that to plus, but whatever follows that minus, I have to change that to the opposite. So right now that 5 looks positive, so now I'm going to change that to a negative 5. So I can see that that 5 was never really positive, it was actually a negative number. Now I see another subtraction, so I'm going to switch that and change that to plus, but whatever follows it, I have to change it to the opposite. So if I cover up that subtraction sign, it was a positive, I want to now change it to negative 9D. That's what it means by plus the opposite. Change all subtraction to plus, but whatever immediately follows it, you change to the opposite. Now this is a plus. I don't do anything with plus. I'm going to leave that as plus 17. So now they said identify the terms. So on my homework, I'm going to write terms. And remember, terms are those things that are separated by addition and subtraction signs. So multiplication is not two separate terms, but I see this as my first term. Now I see my addition sign, so whatever follows it has to be a term. I see an addition sign, so whatever follows it has to be a term. I see an addition sign, so whatever follows it has to be a term. So when I go to identify my terms, I'm going to go in the order that they were given. So 4D is a term and it's positive. But now I can see that my negative 5 is a term, but that's not a positive 5, it's a negative 5. I can see that my next term is negative 9D, and my final term is 17. So those would be all the terms. Then they say identify the like terms. Well, all variables are like terms. I could pull those together. All constants are like terms. So I'm going to write these on two different lines. So my 4D and my negative 9D both have D's. So 4D and negative 9D are like terms. Now, my negative 5 and my 17, those are constants. Those are something different. But I could always group those two together. So my second set of like terms would be negative 5 and 17. So now I've done terms, I've done my like terms. So next, they want me to identify coefficients. Now remember, coefficients are the numbers that are connected to the variable. It says how many variables I have. So when I look at 4D, it means I have 4 groups of D. So that 4 is my coefficient. So what are my coefficients? Well, it's a positive 4. Now I look for just my variable. Oh, there's another variable. What's the number attached to it? Oh, negative 9. So now I've got my coefficient. So now they want me to show the constants. Now the constants are the numbers that are not attached to the variables. So anything that has no variable or anything that can be found on the number line, those are your constants. So I can see I have a negative 5 and I have a 17. Now I've identified my terms, my like terms, my coefficients, and my constant terms. So the last thing that your homework will ask you to do is then simplify the expression. It means pull the things that you can pull together and leave it in the most simple form of the expression. Well, remember we learned with distributive property that my variables and my constants look very different. So when I look at my variables, those are those long, thin sticks. So I have 4 black, long, thin sticks, and I have 9 red, long, thin sticks. There's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And I know that blacks and reds cross each other out. So I know that this red and this black will disappear. This red and this black will disappear. This red and this black will disappear. And this red and this black will disappear. And I always want to simplify, let's get another color, where I do my variables first. So how many of those variables do I have? Well, I'm left with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but they're red. I have negative 5D. Now, those are very different than the constants. Remember, the constants look like those little squares. So I have 5 reds, and I have 17 blacks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. And we know that blacks and reds make the 0 pairs. So I have that gone, that disappears, that disappears, that disappears, that disappears. So what I have left, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. They're all blacks and they're positive, so I would write plus 12. That would be my simplified. So this is what's remaining. That would then complete what I need to do for this part of the homework. Again, every time you see a negative, you're going to change the negative or subtraction to plus the opposite. Now notice, if it's the first one in the series, you don't have to worry so much because you can already see that's a negative 8p. But here, I see a minus. I'm going to always change minus to plus, but whatever follows it has to go to the opposite. Now this is a plus. I just can keep it that way. I don't ever have to change pluses. But if I see minus, I'm going to change that to plus the opposite. Now I can see that was actually a negative 12, and that's actually a negative 11. And then I can go through the same process again. If I look at my terms are negative 8p. I see an addition sign, so here's another term. That's negative 12. I see an addition sign. That's another term, so that's going to be 7p. And I see an addition sign. That's another term, negative 11. So anything separated by addition or subtraction signs are your terms. My like terms, again, are those things that have all the same variable or all the same constants. So if I look at my like terms, I have negative 8p and 7p. So I'm pulling these two. Now a different set of like terms would be negative 12 and negative 11. So I'll do those on 2 separate lines. So then when I want to do my coefficients, that's what's attached to the variable. I have a coefficient of negative 8 and a coefficient of 7. Now notice I left the variable off. If they're asking for the coefficient, it's only the number. It's not the variable. And then they're going to ask me for the constants. Those are just the numbers that you find on the number line. And I have a negative 12 and a negative 11. And then my final thing is now simplify. So this is where I want to pull together So let's take a look at a second example. If you have the negative up front, you don't have to change it because you can already see that's a negative value. So that term can remain as negative 8p. But again, I see a subtraction, so I want to change it to plus the opposite. Now I see an addition, just leave it the same. Every time it's addition, don't switch it. Now I see a subtraction, I'm going to change it to plus the opposite. So it's only with subtraction we're going to do that. So when we look at this, if we're going to look at the terms, again, it's what's separated out by the addition and subtraction signs. So I see my terms here are negative 8p. I see a term of negative 12. I see a term of 7p. And I see a term of negative 11. Now my like terms are all my variables and all my constants. So when I look at my like terms, well, negative 8p and 7p are alike. And negative 12 and negative 11 are alike. Now my coefficients only go with the variable and it's only the number. So when I look at my coefficients, I see a negative 8 and I see a positive 7. When I go for my constants, it's only the numbers we see on the number line. So when I look at my constants, I see a negative 12 and a negative 11. And then when I simplify it, this is where I'm going to use my algebra tiles. And remember, variables go with variables, constants go with constants. So these like terms really help me pull that together. So I have 8 negative p's. So if I have negative 8p and I want to add 7p, well, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I've got, for my 7p, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We can see these are all zero pairs that will cancel out. So what do I have left? Well, I just have a single variable. And I'm not going to write it as negative 1p because we never write the coefficient of 1 with the variable. I'm just going to write it as the opposite, or negative p. So I pulled those together. Now my constants have to be pulled together. Remember, my constants don't look like my variables, so I never can pull those together. So I have negative 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And I have negative 11, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. They're all reds, so I have no canceling out. So what do I have left? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 23. So I have 23 negatives. I can write that as minus 23 because they're all negatives. So the key for this is to make sure you change that minus to plus the opposite so you see whether a term is positive or negative. So let's pull it all together. Here I have an expression. Your homework's going to ask you to simplify expressions. I'm still going to follow the hint that when I see subtraction, I'm going to change it to plus the opposite. So I'm going to rewrite this. And I see negative 4, and since it's the first one, I'll just leave it as negative 4. I see my parentheses, but everything's addition in it, so I'm not going to worry about it. But I see a subtraction. So I'm going to change that subtraction to plus, and whatever follows it, I have to make the opposite. Now I can see that's a negative 3c. But I see addition right there, so I'm going to leave that as addition. So I'm going to apply that hint I told you so I can see what's happening. Now on Tuesday, you guys learned how to do the distributive property, and you should instantly see this as distributive property. So you have to do that first. So I'm going to set up my distributive, and I'm going to say negative 4 times 5c. I'm going to bring down my addition, and remember it's the outside times the last, negative 4 times 7. And I'm going to show the whole thing. I'm not trying to solve it. And I'm going to rewrite everything else just the way it is, because I only want to do one thing per line. Now, negative times a positive is a negative. 4 times 5 is 20c. Plus, a negative times a positive is a negative. 4 times 7 is 28. Plus, and I'm going to keep everything else the same. Now, this is where I gather my like terms, and I'm always going to start with that variable. So I see negative 20c's and negative 3c's. Those two I can pull together. So when I think of negative 20c's, I think of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And when I see the negative 3c's, I see 1, 2, 3. They're all the long bars. Well, when I pull those two together, negative 20c plus negative 3c, they're all red. I have negative 23c. Done with that, because my constants look different. So now I want to pull my constants together. So I have a negative 28 and a positive 13. Well, my negative 28 is going to look like the dots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. Then I have a positive 13. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Let's cancel out my zero pairs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. What do I have left? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15. So I'm going to say, and those are negatives, minus 15. So I always have my variable first, my constant second. This could be a hard homework for you. I've worked all the problems, so I want you to do step by step, and I want you to check my work to make sure that you're getting all of your positives and negatives gathered together, and you're keeping your variables separate from your constants. Good luck on this. I know you can do it. Any problems, I'll answer it when I get back. Have fun. Talk to you tomorrow. I've got one problem that's actually going to drive you nuts. And this is the one type of problem that will be on the test that you'll probably miss, and it's going to be on your homework. And the problem with this problem is, notice here I have a subtraction and I have nothing that follows it. And you can't ever have a floating subtraction sign. So we see here what looks like the beginning of the distributive property. Well, if you have a minus and there's nothing there, you have to put a 1 before it. Now I can rewrite, and I can see it's negative m squared plus 14. I'm going to change subtraction to plus, and now that's a negative 1. Now I can keep everything else the same. And that sets up my distributive property. So what I actually have to do is negative 1 times 6m squared. Bring down my plus. I got to do negative 1 times 13. I'm going to bring down my plus, and I'm going to do negative 1 times m squared. When I do that, it helps me set up the proper positive or negative on my numbers. So I know a negative times a positive is a negative 6m squared. And I know a negative times a positive is a negative 13. And I know a negative times a positive is a negative m squared. Now everything before that can just stay the same. So that is the crucial part, is you got to see that as a negative. Now I can gather my like terms. So I have negative m, 1 negative m squared, 6 negative m squares, and 1 negative m squared. So that's 1, 2, 8, negative 8m squared. And I have 14 blacks, 13 reds. They're going to cancel each other out. I'm left with 1 black left, so that becomes my final. I know that's going to be the hard one. Good luck on it, and I'll help you when I get back. Just try your best.